Recently, I was looking back at an old journal
No.
and it was weird because I came across this entry that said, "Am I just highly sensitive?"
No, are you serious?
Yeah, and I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I was questioning it, not knowing. It was just like really cool to go back and see that. I obviously thought about it, but it wasn't like a positive thing back then
Yeah.
when I was considering it, but it crossed my mind.
Welcome to Sensitive Stories. This episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for treatment with a mental health or medical professional. Let's dive in. Jess, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, April. I've been really looking forward to this for a long time.
Me too. Yeah, and for folks who don't know, we've worked together since 2023. So you have been my right hand supporting me with everything behind the scenes, social media, admin, just everything really.
Yeah, it's been a joy and it's so cool to be, I was just saying to April, to be on the other side of it now because I'm usually editing podcasts and now I'm in the seat here. Yeah,
I
very
know.
exciting
I feel like it's going to be a nice opportunity for us to have a different kind of conversation together.
for
Yeah,
sure.
lovely. Let's start off by hearing your HSP discovery story. How or when did you realize that you're an HSP?
Yeah. So I guess in third year university was when I found out that I was an HSP and I discovered Dr. Elaine Aron's trait, highly sensitive person. So that was about 10 years ago.
Hmm.
At the time, I was in a really competitive nutrition program. It was very like cutthroat. Everyone was competing for an internship.
Hmm.
And I got to third year and I was just like, I don't think I want this enough. It was like, I can't justify putting in the work to pursue this. And I kind of started panicking because everyone else around me was very, they knew what they were doing. They were going for this
Hmm.
internship. And I just had this moment of, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? And I started just, yeah, Googling. I was like, what career can I do? And I knew that I was an INFJ. So I started Googling like careers for INFJs. And somehow through that, I came across a highly sensitive person.
Hmm.
And that was just like most of your guests say, the biggest aha, like relief moment of just, oh my gosh, like I'm not broken.
Yes.
Yeah, because I feel like for so long I was like, oh, there must be something wrong with me. Or I think I just felt a lot of shame about who I was because you hear all these messages your whole life of you're too quiet, you're this, speak up more, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just so relieving. And I ran out and told my roommate, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's this thing called like highly sensitive person. And yeah, so it was just super relieving to find that
Hmm.
out.
It makes sense that it would come at a time where you're pushing yourself beyond your limits. And I love that you had that question of, is this really worth it? I think I'm paraphrasing, but just to be able to pull yourself out of that cycle, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
I think that's where a lot of HSPs they go on a search, right? I hear this so much. Something's not working. I feel different. There's just something about me I need to figure out, and we go down that rabbit hole. And I'm not surprised the INFJ link to the HSP trait. A lot of HSPs are INFJ, so that makes sense to me that you would have
Mhm.
found it somehow in your
Mhm.
search. A lot of overlap there.
Yeah, the relief was just amazing because I don't know if you relate to this or other HSPs, but everything in life just felt like a struggle up to that point where, especially elementary school in particular, it was just like the group sports, the lights, sounds, expectations, the speeches,
Yeah.
everything was like, I was just a very anxious kid and everything was really hard. So yeah, knowing that there was a term for that was very, very relieving. And I didn't immediately start making changes, I would say, even until the last year, to be honest, when I started, or
Yeah.
over a year now working with you. But that kind of got, I would say, like the ball rolling
Mm.
on my outlook on everything.
Yeah, it's really a process. And yeah, a lot of us were anxious kids and we didn't know what was really going on. You look back and you're like, oh, it all makes sense now.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm curious. So you knew you were an anxious kid, but did you ever think, oh, I'm more sensitive or something's different about me? Was that pretty obvious?
I don't know. I think for the most part, it was just like something's wrong with me. But I
Yeah.
will say, even recently, I was looking back at an old journal
Yeah.
and because I would just journal when I was going through something or that was just kind of way to cope. And it was weird because I came across this entry that said, am I just highly sensitive?
No, are you serious?
Yeah, and I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I was questioning it, not knowing. Yeah, so it was just like really cool to go back and see that. And I was like, I obviously thought about it, but it wasn't a positive thing back then when I was
Yeah.
considering it, but it crossed my mind, obviously. Yeah.
Wow. You captured that language, not fully knowing what it was, but
Mm.
something that you just knew. I'm more sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, I just felt like chills.
Oh, no, that's how I felt too. I was like, wow, it wasn't even just sensitive, right? It was like, am I highly sensitive? And I was like, wow, that's really cool.
That's
I should frame
amazing.
that or something. Take a
Seriously.
photo.
Absolutely. Because I don't think growing up, I don't think I had the classic, you're too sensitive. It was implied in other ways, but I don't know that I realized it directly. Oh, I'm sensitive. There's other clues of having sensory overwhelm and being more emotional or finding a lot of meaning in things that other people didn't care about.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That was a big one for me too. Yeah.
But just now it's, oh yeah, now it all fits together. But I love that you had that link looking back. So just I'm curious, now that you have the whole picture, you can look from childhood to now, would you say that you said you thought something was wrong with you, so I'm guessing you didn't really embrace those parts of you. Were you trying to fit yourself into a non-HSP mold? Trying to be different? Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much just felt like I just always had to push harder than other people. Yeah. Always pushing myself, always comparing. And I felt like I was just behind in a lot of ways. Like I had to sleep more and I just struggled more with group things. And yeah. So always felt like I had to push myself, and but it got to the point where it became self-destructive in a way. Sometimes it was good, like I will say I'm proud of myself for pushing myself in some areas, and sometimes it feels like spiritual and it turned out great, but there was also the other side of I was very aggressively pushing myself in certain areas, particularly when it comes to work and school and all of
Mm.
that stuff. Yeah, so even after I found out about being highly sensitive and I was trying to find a new career, I ended up going into recreation therapy, which was an amazing career path, very fulfilling. But weirdly enough, it like does require a lot of group work and like speaking in front of people
Yeah.
and a lot of adapting quickly and like a little bit of unpredictability sometimes. And in my head, I was like, if I'm not good at group stuff or it's hard for me, like I should just do a career in that because I need to get better at it. That's what my thought process was. But it obviously caught up to me eventually.
Yes.
And I will say, like, I probably got a little bit better, but I was sacrificing like, I had other strengths that weren't being used. And I was just pushing myself in that direction. Yeah. So lots and lots of pushing.
Yeah, I feel like this is such a common experience for us because, like, we do want to try to keep up with everybody else, but that gap is so large, and we do need so much more rest and self-care and downtime. It's like how I was asking myself this question, like, how much should I push? Because I definitely don't want to keep myself too limited. I have goals and dreams and interests. But I think what you're talking about is you hit that point where you're like, this is too far. I'm going to go into
Mhm.
recreation therapy to stretch myself, but is this actually sustainable?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, I was ignoring the signs of when it was too much. Whereas if I had just listened to that, I could have pivoted, gone a different direction, but it was like the ignoring and that
Yeah,
then it got worse. Yeah.
that's the piece, right? It's like when we don't even take into account our needs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I'm just so used to it. Like your whole life, you're just
Yeah.
not meeting your needs. And then, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to do, especially when there's so much pressure from the outside to just bypass what you need as a sensitive person.
Yeah.
For folks who don't know, could you just give a little blurb about what recreation therapy is?
I had this down to a T and now it's been so long.
Yeah,
Trying to
sure.
think. Essentially, it's a process where you're using recreation, leisure, and other interventions to improve people's well-being. So it's like a very holistic field. You can
Hmm.
work with a variety of populations like seniors, people with addictions, developmental disabilities, lots of people. So using essentially recreation to improve their quality of life.
I love that. I don't know if we have that in the US. Maybe we do.
It's yeah, it's not a huge, what's the word? Like it's not heard of in a lot of
Field.
places. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like underground still in a lot
Mhm.
of areas. Yeah, if it is in the US, it's probably yeah, it's not as prevalent in healthcare yet.
Yeah. Seems like it should be
That's
though. So when you think about being more sensitive, it didn't serve you in recreation therapy because you were kind of pushing yourself too far, too much group work, too much being on, it sounds like.
yeah.
But I'm curious overall, how would you say being sensitive has impacted you maybe in your work now or in your personal life?
Good question. Yeah, I feel like now that I've embraced it more and have just accepted my need to live like a little bit differently, I do see more of the strengths where it's like the attention to detail and like the creativity, the conscientiousness, the being really organized, also just the empathy too, and caring a lot shows up more, obviously, when you're taking care of yourself. So those were always there when I was pushing myself, but they got lost sometimes, especially when I wasn't doing as well. But yeah, now that I'm taking care of my needs a little bit more, those just shine through. And I just enjoy doing things that utilize those skills too. Like I'm not running groups where I'm like, oh, I don't feel like super great doing this or that was a lot. It just comes very natural when I get to use those skills.
Yeah, I think this is why a lot of HSPs are drawn to helping professions because we do get to bring our empathy and our perception and all those things that really help to see people and support people. Also, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. In healthcare too, I just feel like it's just so busy and there's so much going on. So if I was running like half the groups I was, it might have been a little bit better, but there's so much going on all the time and groups coming in and out. And yeah, it's just hard to keep up the empathy when it becomes overwhelming.
It's hard because at least I remember for me working with couples or doing group therapy, you're managing the dynamics between the people also,
Yes. Yeah.
which for me it can get stressful.
Yes. That was always quite interesting working with,
Yeah.
yeah, in mental health addiction. It was fun sometimes, but it was, yeah, that's like a whole other level of overwhelm that can happen with that.
Yeah, it is. It really
Yeah.
is. So you hit a point where you're like, okay, I don't want to stay in this nutrition program. I'm working as a recreation therapist. This also isn't a good fit. So then you decide to pivot again as you continue to learn about yourself. So I'm wondering if you could tell me about that. What do you do next?
Yeah. So when I was working as a recreation therapist in mental health and addiction, and it was going great for a while, but then it just took a turn where, like I said, like the pushing caught up. And I think it was in 2021 when I developed some pretty severe insomnia, and I had never had insomnia before. So that really just took a toll on me in so many different ways. I also was starting to have some anxiety attacks, and it was like things were just going really downhill. So, yeah, eventually just got to the point where I was like, nobody's winning here.
Yeah.
Like, I just kept pushing myself so hard. I'm like, why? I'm not winning. No one's benefiting from me being in this state, trying to pretend I'm okay. I think that's what helped me make that decision, that transition, because it was hard and scary because it was a risk. Like I had one small VA client at the time when I decided, but yeah, it had just been going on for so long that I was like, it's also a very necessary decision. I feel like it had to happen. I thought about it for a while as a typical HSP. It wasn't like a quick decision. And I did have, luckily, like my coworkers and stuff were really supportive of that. And that was really nice. Yeah. And so I decided I got to take the risk. And luckily, I quit at the end of December 2022, I think. And then within a month, I had a new client, right? And I was like working full time as a VA, which
Wow.
was like,
Wow.
I don't even have words for the gratitude of, oh, yeah, it was just
Oh,
amazing.
it's like someone caught you.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was like, okay, I'm struggling, I have to make a change. I have my foot in the door somewhere. It's something, but to give me momentum. But I was like, this could not work. And so I felt like I was like rewarded for taking a risk, which
Yeah.
was just like, oh, yeah, it was a really great feeling.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
affirming. Hey, this is the right choice. Because it
Yeah.
is scary to just leap and you don't quite know what's next.
Yeah. And I think too, I think there's just an element of feeling like I was failing, which
Mm.
was hard. Like I was in nutrition and then I went to recreation therapy and had been working in that for 4 years. And I was like, oh, I'm going to pivot again. And you just can't help but feel like, oh, I'm failing because I worked so hard to get to where I was. So that was really hard. But yeah, I don't feel like that anymore. Like it's also very full circle too, because I was like, I want to continue working with therapists. And so that kind of brought it all home and made it feel like this was all worth it. I had to go through all that to get to where I am now. Yeah. So just very grateful I made the leap.
I think I think this is a common response is, oh, if I have to make multiple changes, I must have failed at something. But really, I've started to think about it as that kind of stacking of experience. I
Right.
did
Yeah.
this, and that took me to here, and that takes me to the next place. And I couldn't have got to the present day without going through everything that happened in the past.
It's true. Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
could reframe that, because I think about when I went in my undergrad, I studied plant biology, and I thought, oh, that's a
Mm,
waste. I thought that was a waste for a long time because I didn't
right.
use the degree. But then I
Mhm.
realized having a degree got me into grad school, which then got me to become a therapist, which is what I really wanted to do. And it
Yeah.
wasn't a waste.
Yeah. Never a waste,
It's
ever.
never a waste. And it gave me a lot of insights about how I was treating myself then and how I wasn't really listening to my needs. And there's just a lot of insight looking back. And I think
Mhm.
that's such a good reminder that just because you've invested some energy into something, some time, you can still make a change.
Totally. Yeah. And it's funny because I don't think I would even be in this doing this work I'm doing if I didn't go into rec therapy, because I was like scrolling on Reels one day and I came across a rec therapist who
Mm.
had been in a similar position where it was during COVID or just after, I think, and she had burnt out in healthcare. She was very introverted. She referred to herself as like a homebody, and she was now in the online space. And I was like, oh my God. I just immediately reached out to her because I was like, I relate. Like, I want to do
Yeah.
that too. Like, I'm also feeling burnt out. And she was the one that kind of got me into this whole field. So yeah, it was all worth it, all part of the process.
I love that. I was wondering how that connection point happened and how beautiful that it was from someone who walked through this for you.
Yeah, yeah. So incredibly grateful for her. She,
Mm.
yeah, connected me with another therapist, and I had at the time like another business on the side selling wood signs.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Mhm.
I leveraged that experience and obviously my healthcare experience. And yeah, it just snowballed from there. So it was just really lucky to come across her. It was, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I think it's so cool how you can look at what little threads could I pull on? Yeah. What skills are you using in your role as a VA that maybe you weren't using before as a recreational therapist?
Yeah, I think a lot of attention to detail for sure. Things like organization, creativity. I feel like in my other role, I might have been using those a little bit, but it was more heavily focused on like running groups and being able to adapt really quickly. And I obviously proved to myself that I could do those things, but I wasn't thriving
Yeah.
doing that at all. So I feel like working as a VA now, I actually get to like really tap into those skills and just hone in on those strengths. And it fills my cup so much
Hmm.
more rather than depleting me, which is what was happening before. So that's just been huge. And yeah, I feel so much better being able to, especially just being more like task oriented and having that predictability has been
Mm.
huge for me, and knowing like what tasks I have to do for the month, and just makes you feel good too. I think self-esteem wise, because before I was like doing okay, getting by, doing some stuff, and I'm probably harder on myself than other people. But yeah, being in to do all these other tasks as a VA now, it just makes you feel better because you're doing a better job because those are like your strengths.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you get to be a full human, and I know you're really, I think we're similar, and you have these kind of multiple parts of you that you're creative and artistic, but you're also really organized and detailed.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
in my experience as a therapist, you only really get to show up as maybe, well, in the clinical role, you show up as your empathetic self, your caring self, your relational self. But there's all these other parts like the detail orientation and like the drive and
Yeah.
that I need other outlets for that. And so I can understand that role might have been pretty limiting where, yeah, you don't get to use all of the parts of you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it was just the balance was off. And I could tell by the end I was craving just like that predictability. And I was like, someone give me a task that's just simple and I know what to do and I can get it done and I'll do it well. And I just wanted that, yeah, a little bit more of that organization and calmness and predictability. Yeah.
Yeah, predictability. And also, I loved it. I felt that when you said, just give me a task to do. I want to check it
Yeah.
off the list.
Yes. Yeah. Like, because things were just being like thrown at me and I was like having to like do this dance and yeah, so just give me a task. I just want to do something that I know is expected of me and I can do it. Like that's all I wanted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to actually complete the circle. You don't get to see that when you're working with client work. Eventually it happens, but it's pretty murky or it's not tangible. You might see progress, but you can't really like always put your hands around it in the moment in the day to
Hmm.
day. So that is definitely can be a missing piece to keep you moving, to keep you motivated.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know in this transition that you've had with your career, you've moved from being in groups, being super on all the time, to working exclusively from home. So I'm just wondering,
Hmm.
that's a big transition. I'm wondering what that's been
Yeah.
like for you.
Yeah. It's been such a wild transition. I would say honestly, like life-saving in so many ways. Just my dream was like to work from home for so long. And I just think as an HSP, it's so essential. Like I can't really imagine not working from home now. Like I just need that control over my environment. I love being able to plan out my own schedule. And if I'm having an off day or like I didn't sleep well, right? Like I still tend to sometimes struggle with insomnia. So like I can push things a day if I need to. I can dim the lights, right? Like for my old workplace, there's like classic classroom lights, right? Which on my lunch break, I'd shut them off because it was just too much for me. So yeah, that's been absolutely amazing is just being able to have that flexibility and freedom and quiet. Like you're not on all the time and masking and have people around. Yeah, you just get a bit more quiet and peace and get to move at your own pace, which has been huge too. Because sometimes you're like, you know what, I need to go slower today, or I need to like lay down in my bed for 10
Yes.
minutes or something. And I just realized at this point in my life, I'm like, I really need that. It's really hard not to have that or to have someone dictating my every move and like when I take my breaks and stuff. It's really hard. So yeah, I mean, it didn't come with its like, there's pros and cons, obviously, but I had to learn how to run a business and do taxes. And like, at first, you are working a lot because you're like getting everything set up, you're
Mhm.
getting your social media set up and your website. And it's a bit of a balance. And I struggle with that in the beginning, but the payoff was like, I have no words. It was just like incredible. Yeah, just to be able to yeah, have that flexibility. And then over time, things like settle down a bit. You start getting in the groove of stuff. You get your routines in place where you go for walks and you get out of the house and whatnot. So yeah, it's been absolutely game changing as a HSP in every way.
The flexibility, the autonomy is so key for us. You mentioned getting to go lay down for 10 minutes. That is something that you really can't replace. And just being able to take care of yourself when you need it and not
Hmm.
trying to put yourself in this box and constantly going, this is something we talk about, going beyond your limits.
Yeah.
There's definitely a relearning in that, right? Because when I first started being a therapist and having my own business, and I had worked retail for years throughout college, I was a natural foods store manager and then was a buyer. And so I was always on someone else's timeline, always working
Mm.
holidays and weekends and nights.
Yeah.
So it took me a
Yeah.
long time to realize, oh, wait, I have choice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird at first. Like it's almost
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And then you lead into it more and you're like, oh, this is what I've been needing.
Yeah, exactly. It's foreign in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Oh, you can actually rest when you need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Very foreign at first.
And you can actually say, I'm going to do this in an hour, I'm going to do this tomorrow, because that's when I'll have the energy for it. I know that's can be a privilege for a lot of us, and also it's life changing.
Yep. Yep.
So, making sure you're working in sensory friendly environment at home,
Mhm.
resting when you need to, having flexibility. What are some other ways that you take care of yourself, refill your tank?
Walks are really big for me. I try to go for like a non-negotiable walk every day, sometimes longer ones like after work, just to decompress, let my mind wander a little bit, process everything. I love Pilates too. So Move with Nicole on YouTube is amazing. She's very gentle and just, yeah, has some like really amazing workouts. I love doing those. I also like to read. I play video games sometimes, which is like something I did as a kid. So that's really comforting and nostalgic. And then, yeah, also sometimes like on the weekend, I love having a day where I can get up and get myself like a treat, like a iced coffee or I love desserts and stuff, just something that brings me joy. And then maybe watching a movie
Mm.
with my partner and getting takeout. And those kind of days are like my favorite. They're just really fills my cup. And yeah, getting cozy and cuddling with my cat too, always.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Mr. Ginge.
Yeah. Mr. Ginge is the best. Yeah, so those are like the main ways I would say I recharge. Also travel, that's fills me up in a different way
Hmm.
because it can be a lot sometimes, but it does fill me up in a very different way. Yeah, those are that kind of how I give back to myself.
And I love it. As you were describing the weekend, I was like, that's the perfect day. You get a
Mm,
treat, you cozy up with a movie,
yeah.
and you spend time with your person and your pet, and oh, the best. So cozy
It's
and
oh,
comforting.
the best. Yeah. Love it.
So when you are, I was thinking about travel, and as a service provider, being in a support role, it can be hard to step away. So I'm
Hmm.
wondering if you could speak more to, because I think this is something HSP struggle with a lot, is taking time away when you are supporting someone, whether it's at work or in your personal life. How do you
Hmm.
prep for time away?
Hmm. Yeah, so we have a really, you and I have a great system where I prep ahead a lot to be able to take time off. And I usually give myself like 2 to 3 months, I would say, to get ahead on some tasks. And I give myself that time to like prevent overwhelm because I've definitely been in positions where I didn't give myself enough time and it just gets to be too much. So I always give April a heads up and be like, hey, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. And April's amazing. And she helps also get ahead on some stuff. So we get ahead on like social media and a little bit of admin. And we just do a little bit every month, like just plugging away at things. And then, yeah, before we know it, I'm going away next month for 2 weeks and we're still plugging away, but it just doesn't feel as overwhelming because we're planning ahead of time, which is so essential. Yeah, and then also sometimes if there's capacity or if April has like a slower month, there's some like mutual decision making of, okay, do you want to go down a little bit in hours, which is so helpful sometimes because I do lots of work for April and
Yeah.
there's just natural breaks. Sometimes we've realized like throughout the year where we can just put things down for a little bit and both of us can take a break. Like we don't have to be posting on social media every week of the year kind of thing. So yeah, definitely planning ahead has been huge and communicating with your, if it's your boss or yeah, in my case, me and April. Yeah, super essential.
Yeah, the planning ahead and breaking it down into manageable bites has been so helpful. We've
Mm.
been, yeah, now that we've gotten in a rhythm the past few years, we're like, oh, we'll take the 3 months leading up to a trip or a break for either one of us. And we just
Hmm.
slowly chip away at it, and it doesn't feel like extra work, honestly. I
Yeah,
think,
so much
oh,
more manageable.
it's so much more manageable because on paper, oh, that could be daunting. You're trying to fit in a whole month's of work over 2 or 3 months before. No, it just feels easy. And
Hmm.
then we both get a break, which I'm also
Hmm.
looking forward to.
Yeah.
Oh, a month without doing these certain tasks. Oh, what else might I do? Might take some extra
Yeah.
time for myself. Or right now I'm working on a book, so I'm going to pour that into writing, which is also
Hmm.
meaningful to me. But it just gives you there's other areas you can show up in when you take that time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we've learned because we're both creating a lot,
Yes.
whether it's creating social media posts, blogs, videos, podcast episodes, books. There's a lot of things we're putting out there, supporting clients. You're supporting me and your other client, supporting my therapy clients, my consulting clients. We've learned that we can't skip those breaks. And
Yeah.
now we're figuring out how do we build them in?
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah. And just knowing too, like creative energy is not the same as like maybe admin energy or to just
Yep.
like being really careful with when you use that energy and how much of it you use. And because we're both doing that in different ways. So just being smart with that too and knowing like how much do you actually have to give and when do you have to pull back or yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just make sure it's sustainable. And
Hmm.
always giving yourself something to look forward to, like knowing there's time off, whether it be in the
Hmm.
summer or for the holidays. We know, okay, we've got that space coming up. For me, that helps a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes. Yeah. It just adds more joy to your life. There's
Yeah,
like something coming up. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
And speaking of you supporting others so much, I'm wondering, does that support get to come back to you in any way?
Yeah, I would say I mostly rely on my partner a
Hmm.
lot for like when it comes to asking for help and stuff. He's so amazing. There'll be days where I'm like overstimulated or I'm just like, oh, I just can't go out today. I don't want to leave the house. So he'll like go get groceries for me, which is really appreciated. Or he like cooks dinner a lot and usually we'll maybe trade off or I'll do the dishes or something. But yeah, he'll just be really helpful at stepping in and just like taking some different tasks off my plate when maybe I'm feeling overwhelmed or just anxious or just need a little bit more downtime. Yeah, so very grateful for him. He's definitely my go-to for asking for help.
You really need that, don't you?
Yeah.
Just that person you can lean on and say, yeah, I can't go out today.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's not an HSP, so it works out really well because he has his limits too, but he just yeah, he understands and I'm like, I just really can't go to the grocery store right now. If you could, that'd be so amazing. So yeah, really grateful for that. Yeah, it's been
Mm.
very helpful.
And always heartwarming for me to know, oh, Jess is getting some support too.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is.
Just as we start to wrap up, I'm wondering, thinking about the listeners out there who are maybe pushing themselves too hard or thinking about how they could get help, is there a message you could leave them with?
I would say that slowing down, switching careers, or doing less doesn't mean that you're failing. As HSPs, I think we need to carve our own path sometimes, and a lot of people won't understand, and that's okay. But we need to do something different usually. And yeah, you deserve and truly need to live a life that supports your sensitive needs. Like I said, if you're not, like no one's winning. So yeah, listen to your intuition and don't be afraid to take a risk and go against the grain.
Love it. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, thank you so much, April.
I
This
really
has been great.
appreciate it. No, it's been lovely getting to just have our conversations deepen a little bit more, get to know a little bit more about you other than
Yeah,
what I've already known. Yeah, and I'm excited for folks to listen to this. And if they want to follow up with you, I'll be sure to share your website, your social media in the show notes if they'd like to keep in touch.
great. Thank you, April. This has been
Thank you.
awesome.
This is amazing.